Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday morning. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Alan.
And you are officially tuned in to the GG Dispatch. Each week on Tuesday, bright and early, we consolidate the week's biggest headlines in gaming news. Whether you're listening to us on your commute, during your workout, or you just have us on in the background, we thank you so much for listening in. I don't really have a lot of things to update you on. I think we've got some crazy news stories, so we can go ahead and just dive in. We got 5 things on the agenda today. Starting with the Prince of Persia Crown of Tides review roundup. Now, I guess to start, Alan, are you familiar with Prince of Persia? Like, have you ever played those games? Were you ever interested in the franchise at all?
Yeah, so I played a little bit of, I think it was called the Sands of Time.
Uh-huh.
But it was just a very like casual. I played maybe like a level or two, and then kind of just bounced off of it. But I am familiar with the franchise.
Yeah. Yeah, same here. Like I never really got into it a bunch. Like I saw some cool like gameplay back in the day, and a lot of folks, really enjoyed it in the circles that I was in. But I just never really picked it up. But Prince of Persia Crown of Tides definitely got my attention. I had a chance to play the demo at PAX West last year in September. And had a blast with it. The controls super crisp, super clean, and I was really looking forward to it coming out. Or I am really looking forward to it coming out, and the release is imminent. It's coming out here in just 2 days from when you would be listening to this, on the 18th. And the initial reviews are out, and they're looking really good. So on Metacritic, it's a generally favorable review with an 86. We've got from Gfinity here, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is a fabulous addition to an oversaturated Metroidvania genre, bringing fresh mechanics, engaging combat, and entertaining characters back to the series. It's a throwback to the glory days while still ringing in a new era. And we've got from Game Informer, The Lost Crown makes it hard to put the controller down, constantly urging players to follow its paths just a little further. Following its persistent pull to explore more of Mount Quaff is easy, though thanks to how good it feels to do so. Between its first-rate platforming and engaging combat and progression, The Lost Crown's various parts coalesce into a sublime loop. Gameplay is king, and the Prince of Persia understands that, and they gave it a 95. And reading the reviews, there was, or actually something that came across my feed that was interesting, and that was highlighted, was about the music. And so Dreambaum was the user, kind of brought this up and said, seems no one mentioned this, but the music of Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is full of Iranian music influences and sidesteps the stereotypical Arabic music entirely. And turns out it was composed by an Iranian-born Muslim woman named called Metrix Music. And then later on in the thread, there is some basically a response from Gareth Coker, who was like the main composer for the game. And somebody asked, how hard was it to adjust to the Iranian Near Eastern music? How much had Metrix help you? And Gareth said, there's a pretty clear delineation between our work, with going into spoiler territory because the game still isn't out. The soundtrack goes into territory beyond Iranian and Near Eastern music because the game and story dictates that. We therefore both have unique strengths that we each bring to the soundtrack, and as a result, there's a huge range of musical genres and styles beyond what you mentioned above. To put it another way, if it only needed music from that part of the world and only using instruments from that part of the world, I wouldn't have been hired. We took the OST much further than that, and it results in something quite unique, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really interesting that, like, Gareth Coker, who I think is probably best known for his work on Ori and the Will of the Wisps, like that soundtrack is like so iconic to a lot of people, and I mean, he's just a great composer in his own right. But for him to say, like, yeah, the main reason why I was brought on is because the game ultimately dictates that there's a melding of two different styles of music, and you know Mentrix brings that Iranian Eastern our Near Eastern music into the equation, and I bring the rest in. So I thought that was really cool. But
Yeah, I think that
yeah,
people are gonna want that as we move forward. Like they're gonna want more authenticity, especially when these games take place in certain locations. And I can't remember what it was, but I do remember that they mentioned that, like, yeah, we brought in a composer and, from this part of the world so that it felt authentic. I apologize, I don't remember which one it is, but I do think that going forward, we see more and more of that.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And there's and that same thread, there's like some examples of like you know usually if you're in like a desert or like the sort of like Arabian sort of environment, there's a very stereotypical archetypal type of music that you get. And Prince of Persia just really turns it on its head. And so I'm excited. I'm excited for the gameplay, for the visuals, but also that it's getting, you know, uh, it's getting properly represented with talent like Mentrix. So keep your eye out for that game. Again, it's coming in just a couple of days. It looks amazing. Early reviews are great, so chances are you won't regret it.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I think it's awesome that Ubisoft is kind of going back to these like their legacy IPs and like treating them with care and respect and allowing that team to do something completely different. Like it could have easily just been Assassin's Creed with Prince of Persia, like coat of paint. But
Mhm.
they didn't do that. They went this direction, of this sort of Metroidvania style, with all the great music, and they're not trying to shovel it out every single year. I hope they don't try to do that now. They saw how well it's selling.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah. It depends, I guess.
so yeah, yeah. But I think it shows like that if you go back and treat these IPs with respect and you put in good work, people will recognize that and they'll call it out. Like I even saw some people calling this as a GOTY contender, like early GOTY contender. Like that's how much they love this game, and it's
Wow.
great to see Prince of Persia kind of back up
Yeah.
and relevant again.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think um it's a bit early in the year. I mean, it's hard to think. I mean, granted, like there it doesn't, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is coming out like barely two to 3 months into the year, and chances are that's going to grab a lot of Game of the Year, like not awards necessarily, but like people are going to be clamoring and talking about that a lot. I think once the game lands, unless something like drastic happens. Um, but even still, it's interesting to think like we're 2 weeks into the year and already there's this game that's captured a lot of attention and could potentially carry right that influence through the end of the year to be like, yeah, hey, remember the game that came out in early January? Yeah, that's the one that people are still talking about. And to your earlier point with Ubisoft and like using the IP, hopefully not shoveling out a bunch of games, like we'll see how it goes, right? Because there's definitely an opportunity, I think, not necessarily to shovel out a bunch more games, but like if this is a good model for them and they're able to kind of put a spin on the Metroidvania genre, which it looks like they have with some of the mechanics about like turning back time and like the movement and everything else. Like it's really there are some really interesting stuff in this game. Um, then it definitely lays a solid foundation, for more Prince of Persia games to come in this style. Um, and it could open up a new or not open up a new revenue stream, but like reopen this revenue stream for Ubisoft. So
Also, shout out for letting them cook. Like from everything that I've seen, it performs well on every platform. Like even the Switch is hitting 1080p 60. Like it's
yeah,
wild. So like to go from so many games that are like really rough around the edges to this, and to see the sort of good vibes, the positive vibes around this, I think will help it sell more copies. I think hopefully sets like an example for everyone else to follow. Hopefully.
yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, of course, there's an element of like the kind of game that it is, right? But still, like to get that consistency across the board, like whether you're running a 2D Metroidvania or a 3D, action shooter or whatever, um, you still want to shoot for that consistency regardless. So it is good to see that for sure that people are able to get the same level of experience no matter what platform they're playing on. So, all right. So that was story number one. Story number two. This is more of a kind of a personal thing. So I played the Granblue Fantasy Relink demo over the weekend, and so are you familiar with this one, Alan? Is this your wheelhouse, or like have you seen any of this, and are you interested in it at all?
I've seen a little bit of it. Is this going to be like another sort of like what's that like a free MMORPG type of thing, like the Hoyo verse or whatever it is?
No, no, not really. I mean, it struck me very much as like Monster Hunter almost. Like,
Okay, okay, okay.
yeah, I mean, there's a core sort of like fantasy narrative. Like, there's a story that you're going through, but the way that the demo was set up was was interesting. Like, it had like a story mode, and then it had a quest mode where the quests that you were taking on were basically to go and fight either like waves of monsters or like one big monster. And you could build out your party in different ways, et cetera, et cetera. And then you can earn various ranks and grades depending on how quickly you defeated the monster, how much damage you took, if you entered critical mode, et cetera. But it gave me a very like Monster Hunter feel doing the quests, um, which was interesting. But uh, yeah, I mean the Granblue universe is pretty. I mean it's kind of fairly large. It's got some. It had a fighting game that came out I think a number of years ago that people really enjoyed, and so now this is more of like a full fledged fantasy game that people are looking forward to. Um, Very rich and vibrant world. The music is beautiful. Really enjoyed the music, and the combat is pretty solid. I mean, you basically have a party of four heroes that you're adventuring with at any given time. It's basically like an action RPG. I got some tastes of like almost like East, if you're familiar with the East series. Um, but like square to attack, and you can like trigger like different special attacks by holding R1 and using associated buttons, etc. And then you can engage in like link attacks and such with other members of your party, and then you can, kind of play off of those link attacks to get into like bigger kind of like group attacks called like full bursts, to do a bunch of damage to an enemy. And so the loop of the gameplay felt pretty good. I will say with the main character, at least playing in the story mode, I wasn't getting a lot of variety in the combos, like the attack combos, because there's like a regular attack and then like a power attack, like square and triangle. And so like alternating those two, I wasn't really getting a lot of of variety there, which I was hoping for a bit more depth when it came to that gameplay at least. But again, overall, it was a lot of fun. I almost got some feelings of like Dynasty Warriors almost with it. Like you're just out there, just like wailing on a bunch of goblins, and you feel like a badass. Um, but
Okay,
yeah,
so like
yeah,
squarely in the Muso genre.
yeah. I mean, kind of in the Muso genre, not quite as dramatic. Like it's not like you swing your weapon and like 10 enemies in front of you all like stifle back, like they all got hit in a huge swing. But you do get like a good amount of enemies coming in, and your attacks can like you feel like you can take on a bunch of enemies at once instead of like a traditional turn based, or even like or obviously like not a Souls like or anything like that, where it's like you're just kind of squaring off with one enemy or maybe two or three enemies at a time and having to like pace yourself and like really time like your dodges or your blocks or anything like that. It's much more, or at least the standard approach can be much more hack and slash, and a bit less strategic, but it's still a ton of fun. So
So
um,
from what you played, like, does it have a chance? Can it stick? Can it stick around? Does it?
yeah,
'Cause there's a lot of games out there right now.
there are a lot of games. I think there's definitely going to be an audience for this, and I think it will. I think it'll be um, the perfect game to kind of like carry folks over until let's see, because I believe it's coming out February 1st. So I think it'll be the perfect game to kind of keep people occupied until Rebirth gets here. um, so Persona 3 Reload's also coming out like literally the next day. And so they're targeting different kinds of audiences. So I think you're either going to be playing Persona 3 Reload or you're going to be playing Granblue Fantasy. Some people might be playing both, but I think the camps are going to kind of be broken out like that. And yeah, I think there's definitely potential for it to find an audience and make a splash. I don't know if it's going to be like Game of the Year material or anything like that, but I think people will look upon it favorably. If I had to guess, I would say like Metacritic 82 to 84. I'm gonna put some chips down and kind of guess right around there is where it would land. So,
Okay.
um, yeah, I had a great time with it. I'm looking forward to spending some more time with it in a couple weeks when it arrives. I put out some feelers. You know, Geekly Grind might get a review copy, so if we do, of course, we'll share our full thoughts on it once we get to spend some more hours with the game. But otherwise, you can look forward to our review after the game releases. Um, all right, Switch. Well, actually, before I go on to the next thing, I think we've talked about this before, Alan. But like now that we're in 2024, what game is on your radar? Like, what's the game that in the next, maybe in the next month, you're like, oh yeah, like I'm really looking forward to this game. I can't wait to get my hands on this game.
For me, it's all on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I'm
Okay.
actually trying to finish my second playthrough of Final Fantasy VII through hard mode to try to get the platinum.
Oh, nice,
Because there
nice.
are a few things that you need to do, like and you have to do it through hard mode, which sucks. But
Yeah.
and then after that, I still have to play the DLC with Yuffie in it. I can't remember the exact name of the
Oh, Intergrade.
DLC.
Yeah, yeah,
Intergrade, there you go, that one.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I have to do those two things still between now and end of
Have you played
February.
Crisis Core?
I haven't.
Dude, you got to play Crisis Core. Okay,
I have to
so
play Crisis
yeah,
Core. Okay.
yeah, you have to play Crisis Core. Yeah, you have to play Crisis Core. You're already doing your redo on remake. So like basically timeline wise, like it's Crisis Core, remake, Intergrade, and then Rebirth. So, get your Crisis Core play in while you're
Okay.
finishing up your
Okay.
hard mode,
So
and then do Intergrade, and then you'll have the whole story that you need going into Rebirth. Yeah.
gotcha. Okay. So I think what I'll do is I'll hopefully like I'm gonna try to catch it on sale, obviously. But I'll try to pick it up on Switch because that makes it a lot easier to do sort of like a second screen. Like I can watch football or something and then play like Crisis Core as I'm doing that, or while I'm watching a TV show or anything else.
Yeah.
But I will try though to fit in to squeeze in what was it
Crisis Core.
Crisis Core, yeah.
Yeah.
Cause like,
Yeah.
you know, we have Persona 3 Reload coming in hot, and it's
Yeah.
gonna be on Game Pass day one. I've got Game Pass, so that's another thing I want to also play because I got into Persona because of Persona 5.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot, and not like not the amount of stuff that's a lot. It's just that these games have so much content in them.
I know. Yeah, it's JRPG winter, and so there's just like so many hours of content that are hitting
Oh,
us
and
now.
winter is coming.
Yeah,
Winter is coming.
winter is coming for sure. Oh, I mean the weather too. I mean, like if you're listening to this and you're buried under like 3 feet of snow, I apologize. Um, I'm here in the safe sanctum of San Diego, and so I think it was a balmy 66 degrees outside today. Um, so yeah, my condolences to all of you out
Yeah,
in the whiteout. So
same. Not in San Diego, but like yeah, it was like 70 today. It was
yeah,
like
yeah, exactly. So all right, both of us, people out there are like, screw you guys. But anyway, um, all right, this was an interesting news piece that came out. So earlier this week, we had a seemingly, you know, nondescript press release that came out from Altic Lansing Ventures, and this is how the press release kind of read. It said. Altec Lansing Ventures, a leading global audio electronics company, teams up with AI Shark to redefine gaming experience through cutting edge AI technology. And uh, at the time, they've edited the press release since then, but it said the innovative gaming software is set to mark a significant leap forward in the gaming experience, bringing enhanced gameplay for beginner level users, and it plans on introducing its new offering. It says now in time for the holiday season 2024, but before it said in along with the launch of the Nintendo Switch 2 in September 2024. And so this like got a lot of attention really quickly and
oh yeah.
people were like what the hell is happening, like why are we getting this press
No,
release
when
from
you sent it
yeah
when you
sure
sent that to me on Discord, I'm like, there's no way. Like, there's no way this company is
yeah
just like. Yeah, that super secretive Nintendo. They let us in on all the secrets. It's
Yeah.
coming out in September.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know. I mean, I've kind of was on both sides of the fence on this one. And in case what makes it, AI Shark was formerly known as Gameshark. So this is the company that you used to, plug the extender cartridge into your Super Nintendo to get, your 99 lives and your unlimited money and all other stuff like before there were, codes and other things that you would do on the computer to get all your boons. Gameshark was helping gamers in the 8 and 16-bit eras essentially make it past the games that otherwise they would never beat. Um,
Actually, can we take a moment to make fun of just how dumb this whole thing is? Like, they renamed themselves from like this Game Shark, which seems like it's like a legacy type of thing that's like been around for a long time, to like AI Shark. And then
yeah,
they go on to talk about how like it's meant to help like beginner players. But like if I remember correctly, like didn't Sony have something like a hint system they just basically like dropped altogether?
yeah. I mean, I'm not familiar with the Sony thing, but like, yeah, I agree
On the
that.
PS5, yeah, they had like that whole like in the cards or whatever, like it would help you if you were getting stuck. But I
Oh
think
yeah,
they
yeah.
got
No, there. Yeah, I know those. Yeah, I know what
yeah,
you're
like
talking
but
about
they
now.
like
Yeah, yeah.
they didn't Sony just basically like just cut it out. So it almost seems like what are you doing going to try this thing that Sony built directly into the system and was like, yeah, we're not doing this anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I agree that the marketing, like the brand name still would have carried some weight, like can still carry weight because again, like as a millennial, like I'm familiar with Game Shark. I would probably be interested in other things Game Shark might be doing, but AI Shark? No, come on. That's dumb.
Yeah.
But in any case, so there was a lot of attention on this thing. People were like, "Oh, it's coming in September," blah blah blah, which only adding more fuel to the Switch 2 fire, right? And then Jason Schreier was, on Twitter, basically like, "Okay, what's the more realistic scenario here? That Nintendo let this like random low tier hardware company in on one of the biggest hardware secrets in gaming, or that some PR person decided to like get attention on their press release by just dropping information that isn't true. Um, so, you know, I can see the latter making the most sense, but I can also, there's also been a lot of chatter about the Switch 2 and hardware tests and everything else happening for a number of months now. And so I think the worst kept secret in gaming is that the Switch 2 is coming very soon. I think. And so that's why I wasn't necessarily completely put off by the idea that some random dude like knows, like somebody got the info, they saw something they shouldn't have seen, an email went out, they were on a memo, whatever. Um, I would not be surprised if it leaked itself in this manner at all. Um, so yeah, I was a little bit kind of 50-50 on this, but overall I think the whole escapade was dumb. But I think it just showed that people are really excited for the Switch 2, and there's was also a lot of talk around the hardware level as well. And so it basically was, I don't know if it was necessarily confirmed, but there's been a lot of talk about how the Switch 2 will essentially be operating with PS4 hardware and be able to deliver like PS4 visuals and graphics. And this caused like a weird, a weird stink on Twitter, on the internet. Like people were like, "Why is Nintendo like releasing hardware that's like 7, 8, 9 years old, whatever?" And people just had to remind them like this is what PS4 games look like, right? Like with screenshots of Ghost of Tsushima and Final Fantasy 7 remake and like all these other amazing looking games. And it's like, okay, now take this on the go, have a great battery, like it makes sense that that the Nintendo would have, or the Switch 2 would have that level of hardware. So like I don't know, like do you think that, I mean, don't you think that just makes sense, Alan? Like what's your thought on that whole like discourse?
Yeah, I mean, the chip that they use in the Switch was already like 6 years old when they used it. Like they've already done this before.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not like it's hurt their sales, and not only that, but like if you look at something like Super Mario Wonder, that even though you wouldn't put it up there with like The Last of Us or Alan Wake, it still looks very good on its own terms.
Right.
And I think Nintendo's always about that of getting hardware and letting just their own devs run with it and use it in ways that they feel will be most successful. And I also think that you have to remember that they're not really designing it themselves. Like they get a lot of help from NVIDIA along with the SDK, the software development kit, and that
Yeah.
can go a long way to mitigating, some of the concerns that a lot of people have, especially with all the work that NVIDIA has put in towards stuff like DLSS, the deep learning super sampling,
Hmm.
frame generation. Like I can guarantee you, they're bringing all that stuff in on the Switch because when you look at the landscape, like AMD basically owns PS5 and Xbox. Like this
Hmm.
is Nvidia's only basically their only foothold in the console gaming space.
Hmm.
So they're going to work with Nintendo, and obviously Nintendo will always side on being as conservative as possible. They like making money on their hardware; they don't like losing it. In comparison to like Sony and Microsoft. So I think that yeah, like it completely checks out. Although I think it's kind of like strange to say it's going to have like PS4 hardware when like the PS4 was using an x86 processor and Nvidia's chip that's in the Switch and will probably be in the Switch too is like an ARM-based processor. So it's like a little difficult to kind of say it's apple to apples, oranges to oranges.
Right.
But like in terms of overall power level, in terms of what you get graphically, you probably will just get sort of like PS4, I guess, looking games from that
Hmm.
system.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's worked, right? Like, if like the Switch has been immensely popular as a platform, and it's put out a lot of incredible games, and you know, like there have been some like pain points around ports, right? From like Mortal Kombat 1 infamously, right, and a few other games that just don't look really good on the Switch. But when Nintendo releases their first party titles, you bet your ass that it's going to look amazing, right? And so for them to have that hardware at their disposal for the Switch, again, you'll know that it's going to look really good when they release Metroid Prime 4, when they release, a new Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, like whatever treats they have in store for us with this new generation, with this hardware backing it. This is their model, right? Like this is the model that Nintendo has used, and it's worked. So if it's not broke, don't fix it. So, um, yeah, I
Yeah,
thought
and also,
it was interesting.
I'm sure they're going to try to keep in mind backwards compatibility. People
Hmm. Yeah,
in 2024 or what I think will be a 2025 release. I know everyone is probably would disagree with me, but I still think it's 2025. But anyway, at this point in time, people expect to be able to play that huge Switch library on that new Switch, and then whether or not you actually get like a performance boost is super up in the air because Nintendo, being Nintendo, could just say no, you're just gonna get it to kind of work, and that's it.
yeah,
But I do know that I'm sure they know that that they're gonna want to have that stuff carry over.
yeah, for sure. Um, All right. There were, moving on to the next story. We have, unfortunately, some more layoffs in the gaming and tech industry, as both Twitch and Discord had some significant layoffs over the past week. Twitch laying off over 500 people. This is from Tech Radar, from Catherine Lewis. It says the CEO of streaming platform Twitch, Dan Clancy, has publicly spoken about the company's recent layoffs and revealed that right now, quote, we aren't profitable, end quote. This came during a community chat hosted on Twitch yesterday, where he stated, we've implied this before, where we say we need to run it sustainably, but I'll be blunt, we aren't profitable at this point. Amazon has been extremely supportive of Twitch, and a big thing for being sustainable over time is ensuring that we don't lose money. And it was confirmed on January 10th, the company is laying off over 500 people. And it says it has become clear that our organization is still meaningfully larger than it needs to be given the size of our business. Um, so Twitch had that happen. And in addition to that, Discord is laying off 17% of its employees. Now, this is only 100. I mean, only. It's 170 people, but 17% at first. I was like, man, that's a lot. This is going to be a huge number, but it's 170 people. And so yeah, I mean, it's this is from Alex Heath at The Verge. It says Discord is laying off 17% of its staff, a move that CEO Jason Citron said is meant to sharpen our focus and improve the way we work together to bring more agility to our organization. They were announced today to employees in an all-hands meeting and an internal memo that was obtained, and it'll impact 170 people across various departments. This is another one of those examples where they grew too quickly. So they had some additional headcount, following COVID and everything else. And so, like many tech companies in the aftermath, as things have sort of slowed down and things are getting not quote back to normal, because I freaking hate that phrase, but as things have sort of slowed down in general, these tech companies are kind of realigning with costs and everything, and it's leading to a lot of layoffs. And so, obviously, it's just a horrible way to start off the year. I mean, we reported last week on more layoffs at I believe it was Unity, laying off 25% of its workforce. So we've already seen a ton of layoffs this year. I think we're going to continue to see more companies course correcting and adjusting their checkbooks, so to speak, their balance sheets, but it's still rough to see, especially for platforms that are so important to gaming like Twitch and Discord. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Alan, any thoughts on that?
it yeah, it sucks to continue to see this. And everyone was hoping that 2024 to be better than 2023, because 2023 was pretty rough. But the hits just keep on coming. It's always sort of weird to see all these people getting the axe, but like there's no executives who get fired at all. Like somehow the company, like, whoa, these people just showed up and we're paying them checks, man. I don't know. This just went out of control organically. I don't know what happened here. Like, you
Yeah,
hired them, bro. You hired them. Why aren't you getting cut?
yeah,
So that sucks. Hopefully it gets better.
yeah, yeah. I mean, again, the yeah, payroll sucks. Like payroll is like the most expensive thing at any company. And so one of the quickest and easiest ways, right, for companies to try and right the ship, quote unquote, is by laying people off. But to your point, like there's hardly ever any information or news about the executives that are taking the impact or the accountability that they hold for basically, costing the livelihoods of those folks who are there to earn a living and be able to provide and do all the things that they need to do, right? And so that speaks to their ability to forecast, their long-term vision, you know. So I think that really does need to be more reflective of the executives making the decisions. Like the board needs to be able to say, like, okay, sure, let's go ahead and lay off all these folks. Oh, and by the way, like we're going to be looking for a new CEO. We're going to be looking for a new whatever, because obviously you weren't able to look around the corner and see that this was going to be an issue. So why would we trust you to be able to take the company to a successful future, right? But um, perhaps too idealistic, perhaps. But hoping that the the layoffs will kind of die down, stabilize, and we can move into a calmer period for the various tech and gaming companies out there. um, and finally, Elden Ring fans are ravenous for Shadow of the Erd Tree announcement after back-end Steam update. This is from Ryan Dinsdale at IGN. So the Elden Ring fans have grown ravenous for a Shadow of the Erd Tree expansion after a developer From Software made a change to the game's backend on Steam. Twitter user and Elden Ring YouTuber Ziostorm noticed the change on SteamDB's page for Elden Ring, sharing an image of a new application added to the downloadable content section of Elden Ring's Steam page for the first time since launch. And they said, I'm not saying it's 100% Shadow of the Erd Tree, but there's a pretty good chance that it is, and that the announcement must be imminent. And so the tweet is listed here. And yeah, I know there's folks were kind of expecting it at the Game Awards in December, and that didn't pan out. And obviously, Elden Ring was a sort of not sort of it was a huge impact on the gaming community. It sort of established itself as a pillar of the Souls-like genre, and had a huge gaming, like, cultural impact in the gaming community. And so, of course, people are really eager and excited for it to get here. I'm saying, please wait. like we were just talking about, we have so much stuff coming out in the next, like, 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. Can it be a summer thing? Like, can we make it like May or June? Like, please don't have it any earlier than like April, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to touch this thing. So
No, yeah. The only thing I have to say is like, gamers, be cool. What's all this about data mining, looking through, sifting through code, and going into the Steam backend? Just be cool. Let it just happen. Enjoy the moment of when it gets announced and you get all the cool stuff. Just be cool.
yeah,
Relax.
yeah, I know. I mean, people can't, they can't. They're anxious, man. They just really want to see it, and they're not going to be cool. Like, the people are just, they're hungry for it. They're going to go looking for all kinds of crazy stuff. It's like, gosh, what was that thing? I think it was at the Game Awards, but it was the Kojima trailer. I think it was, where they looked at the reflection in the character model's eyes to see, like, the doorway to, like, confirm some sort of conspiracy theory about the game being connected to PT or something. Like,
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
gamers, man, they love this stuff, man. We love this stuff. So I don't think they're gonna chill out. But yeah, we'll see if the Shadow of the Erd Tree announcement comes sooner rather than later, because I know Elden Ring fans are ready. They're ready for it. And that's it. In terms of upcoming releases, as I mentioned, we've got Prince of Persia, Crown of Tides coming out or the Lost Crown, sorry, not Crown of Tides, the Lost Crown, coming on the 18th. And then shortly after that, we'll have Persona 3 Reload and Granblue Fantasy Relink coming out. And then heading into the end of February, where, of course, a little game called Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is coming out. And then Dragon's Dogma 2 following shortly after that. So definitely a lot of amazing games coming down the pipe. I hope you all have enough time to enjoy them all. I know I don't. I was telling Alan before the pod started, I still haven't gotten around to playing some more GTA 5. I really want to. Scarlet Nexus is getting close to the end here. Which, again, if you have not played Scarlet Nexus and you enjoy Bandai Namco games, you need to play Scarlet Nexus. Like, it is so cool. It is super fun. The gameplay is amazing. The narrative is very much like anime craziness, like, goes from being a happy-go-lucky, like, slice of life, like going to a cool school type feel, to just absolute despair and craziness. But overall, it's been a blast. And so I definitely was not expecting to enjoy this game as much as I did when I picked it up. But it's one of those games I think that might have flown under the radar if you didn't know to look for it. So Scarlet Nexus, great game. News this week, nutty. But until next time, I'm Jeremy.
I'm Alan.
Keep gaming, everybody.
See ya.